Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk a little bit about a pretty cool, pretty stylish and slightly quirky little camera that has had a place in my heart for many years now. I'm going to show you some of my favourite pictures that I've taken with it, from weddings to concerts and of course some street photography. I hope that by showing you these photographs it will demonstrate the quality and nature of this 24mm lens better than I could ever describe in words. However, I will add many personal notes about how I felt using the Fujifilm Natura Black over the past 5 years. To answer one question that may come up, a number of the street pictures here are taken with red scale film. It's a fun film to use, and I'll put a link in the description that you can check out if you're not familiar with it. And one more thing before we start. I put the strawberry sticker on my camera to make it look way more professional. I hope we can agree I succeeded there. With its fast f1.9 lens, the Natura Black was designed to excel at shooting in low light conditions. With this in mind, it was launched alongside Fujifilm's Natura 1600 ISO film, which has sadly been discontinued. I remember first reading about the Natura Black after simply searching online for a small camera with a big aperture. If I was to take a guess at why I'd wanted these specifications in a camera, I think it might have been because I wanted to take pictures at concerts where the light is often very low, and being a small camera, I could sneak it past the security guards on the door, and for it to seem fairly innocuous and unprofessional if they did spot me taking pictures. The Natura Black succeeds as a design by picking a niche and doing that thing well. It's a tiny camera that's great in low light. The Natura in its name refers to a natural photographic look taken without flash. If that's what you're after, this is going to be high up on your list of contenders. In fact, I can barely think of any other contenders at all. The camera is exceptionally light and small. I'd be very surprised if I couldn't fit 3 of them in the back pocket of my jeans. Sadly, I only have one. As you can see, the instructions here are in Japanese, both in the manual and on the camera markings itself. I know what you're thinking. This of course puts Japanese people at a big disadvantage here. If you're a Japanese speaker using the camera in Japan, it won't seem half as cool as it does in Cambridge, for example. Perhaps you think being able to understand how to use the camera might compensate a little for this, but I'm not so sure. Back when I was less experienced at using a point-and-shoot camera, the lack of English markings did throw me a little. However, the icons used in the LCD display will be perfectly familiar to most photographers. There are just a few simple options to use: flash, timer, focus to infinity, exposure compensation, and date stamp. The biggest drawback with the camera in general really is that most of these options get reset whenever you turn the camera off. Thankfully, your choice of whether or not to have the date put on the negative is maintained. I think, like me, most people will want this function turned off and off forever. However, the other options need to be set each time you turn the camera on, which is quite a hassle. Photographing a concert, for example, means I'll have to suppress the flash each time and also reset the exposure compensation. Continuing with the theme of natural light photography, when you use a film with ISO of 1600 or higher, the camera activates its NP, natural photography mode. This deactivates the flash and opens the aperture right up to make the most of the ambient light. There are 2 indicator lights by the Viewfinder. The red light comes on if it is unable to get a bright enough exposure. The green light flashes if the subject is too close to be in focus. Move back a little and this will stop flashing. The minimum focus distance is a useful 40 centimeters. With these few portrait photographs I took of my friends in Italy, I used Ilford Pan F+, hoping that its slow ISO of 50 would force the camera to open up its aperture even in the bright sunshine and create a more shallow depth of field. I think that it worked, and I really like these shots. One downside I would note about the camera is that the viewfinder is pretty small. It seems as if you move the camera or your eye a few millimeters left or right, or up and down, your view disappears. It's fine as it's what you'd expect from such a tiny camera, but I don't find the Viewfinder a real pleasure to use. I think it would be useful to make a few quick comparisons with the Fujifilm Class W point and shoot. The Class W has several notable differences, many of which are advantages. The Class W has a slightly tighter and slower 28mm f2.8 lens. With the Class W you can shoot in aperture priority mode, and most thankfully the exposure compensation is a fixed dial that you don't need to keep resetting. It's bigger and heavier than the Natura Black, but most objects in the world are. The Class W is still very small and light. What it lacks most in comparison is that fantastic f1.9 lens of the Natura Black. So despite its quirks, the Fujifilm Natura Black is a genuinely unique, quirky and fun camera. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to check out my other point and shoot videos on the channel, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'll help if I can. My Instagram and other fun links are in the description. Thanks again everyone.